Grab your notepad and pull up a chair, deputy. Welcome to The Explainer. I'm your lead detective today, and I've got a desk full of open investigations that are absolutely going to blow your mind. You know, we tend to think that modern science basically has everything figured out, right? That we've closed the book on the basics of how our world and our bodies operate. But man, that couldn't be further from the truth. Today, we're going deep inside the cold case files. We're going to review the clues, examine the evidence, and investigate some truly baffling everyday mysteries that science simply cannot crack. Here is the docket for today's explainer. First up, human fingerprints. Then, ball lightning. And third, the placebo effect. All right, let's crack open case file number 1, human fingerprints. So I've got a really basic question for you. Why do we even have fingerprints? I mean, sure, they're super useful today, right? We use them in forensics to catch the bad guys. We use them to unlock our phones. But let's look at the facts here. Evolution didn't spend hundreds of thousands of years giving us a built-in biometric security system. There has to be a real biological reason.
To figure out the why, we really need to look at the how. When you were just a tiny fetus in the womb, your fingerprints were one of your very first defining features. It's actually a pretty wild process. These unique designs are literally carved into your fingertips by the pressure of the amniotic fluid, combined with how fast your fingers are growing. And because it's all based on those super specific environmental factors, fingerprints are entirely non-genetic. Seriously, even identical twins do not share the same prints. You get this unique little stamp in the womb, and it's yours for life.
Okay, so we know their origin story, but what's their motive? What's the actual purpose? Science currently has 2 prime suspects. Theory 1 is grip. The idea here is that the grooves on your fingers act kind of like the treads on a car tire, helping you grip, hold, and throw things much more easily. Makes total sense, right? But then there's theory 2, tactile sensitivity. This suspect suggests our prints are actually there to help us sense vibrations and feel tiny textures better, basically supercharging our sense of touch. Now, both of these are incredibly solid leads. They're logical, and they both even have some evidence backing them up. But here's where we hit our first massive roadblock: dead end. As of right now, there is absolutely no concrete scientific evidence proving a specific, definitive purpose for your fingerprints. None. Despite all these strong leads, the true biological reason for those little swirls at the tips of your hands remains a totally open case. Moving right along to case file number 2, ball lightning. Just to give you an idea of how long this particular case has been sitting cold, sightings of this bizarre phenomenon actually go all the way back to the 1600s. And, wild enough, people are still reporting it today. I mean, just imagine witnessing this hundreds of years ago without any modern science to explain it. We actually have witness accounts from the 1800s where totally terrified bystanders described it as, and I quote, smelling like sulfur and being the work of the devil. Honestly, that's a pretty logical deduction for the time period when a glowing, floating orb just randomly invades your living room. All right, let's pin the facts to our mental evidence board, because the clues here are wildly erratic. Witnesses generally described glowing, floating spheres of light that show up during regular thunderstorms, but that's kind of where the consistency ends. They can be the size of a marble or span multiple feet across. They might be white, yellow, orange, or even blue. Sometimes they last a split second, other times they just float slowly through the air for minutes. They can pass completely silently through solid windows and walls, doing 0 damage, or they can violently explode with a massive bang. So what's the leading scientific theory for these terrifying orbs? Well, we have a few, let's call them vague explanations. Some scientists suspect it's a unique form of plasma. Others point the finger at burning particles in the air. And some think it's all caused by intense electromagnetic fields. The thing is, any of them could be partially true, but nobody knows for sure. And boom, here's our second roadblock: dead end. Our biggest piece of evidence is missing because nature absolutely refuses to cooperate. See, ball lightning is so incredibly rare that it's nearly impossible to replicate in a controlled laboratory environment. Scientists aren't exactly stumbling upon this in the wild with their gear ready. So researchers are left completely at the mercy of speculation, basically trying to piece together clues from random internet videos like that famous footage from a Belarusian train station. Until someone can reliably capture it in a lab, this case stays unsolved. Let's open up the last folder on the desk. Case file number 3, the placebo effect. Here's the core mystery we're investigating with this one. How does a completely fake treatment yield actual, measurable physical results? Seriously, how does pure belief somehow become physical reality? By definition, the placebo effect is a phenomenon built entirely on suggestibility. Your mind believes something is happening, and your body just follows suit. It's actually so powerful and prevalent that it's the absolute gold standard in double-blind medical studies. Think about it. Let's say you're testing a brand new drug for stomach pain on 100 people. You give 50 the real drug and 50 a placebo, just a sugar pill that does literally nothing. If 25 of the people taking the sugar pills say their stomach hurts less, the real drug has to significantly beat that 25% benchmark to even be deemed effective. The sugar pill actually makes them feel better, simply because they assume it's real medicine.
Let's look at how researchers try to piece this together. The current working theory from the psychological and neurological side outlines a three-step process. Step 1, the patient anticipates a positive effect from the pill. Step 2, reacting to that anticipation, the brain actually starts pumping out endorphins and other chemicals. And step 3, thanks to those chemicals, the body physically starts feeling better in advance of any actual medicinal effect. Now, that three-step process sounds incredibly logical, right? But it is entirely unproven. Dead end. Despite literally decades of intense clinical study and our absolute reliance on double-blind trials, the exact biological mechanisms behind the placebo effect remain completely unknown. We use this phenomenon every single day to test life-saving drugs, and yet we have zero definitive proof of exactly how the brain pulls off this physical healing trick. It is an effective, life-saving mystery. And that brings us to the final verdict. Let's wrap this explainer up and look at all three of these case files together. We've tracked the clues, we've interrogated the scientific theories, and in every single instance, we've hit a brick wall. What we've really seen today is that the unknown isn't just hiding at the bottom of the deepest oceans or way out in the far reaches of space. It's floating in the sky during a thunderstorm. It's sitting right there in your medicine cabinet. It's literally the grooves on the very fingers you're using right now. Thank you for your hard work today, Deputy, but I'm going to leave you with this one provocative thought. If science still can't officially explain something as basic as the purpose of our own fingertips, what else is hiding right in plain sight? Keep your eyes open and stay curious.